in a $1.8 billion conspiracy. Hey there, everyone. Dave Barlow here with the gang from Sell for 1%, the father of 18-time realtor, best handsomest realtor, and his
best-looking realtor,
younger, uglier brother, Jaime, who can't even get his name on the ballot. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But anyways, we're here.
That's Jamie's not ugly.
Oh, boy. Handsome devil. He's a handsome devil. Thank God you guys look like you're...
Yeah. Don't listen to Dad, Jamie.
There you go.
You think I listen to either one of you?
We have our term of the week. Week. Always wonder how long you used to take that until it's just like a whisper.
I can see all of our viewers clicking off the video right now. Next.
Now they're hanging around for the term of the week. And this is an interesting one and kind of a round robin discussion this week with the buyer agency fee. As you guys know, yesterday, the court in Missouri, otherwise known as Missouri, the class action lawsuit, found for the plaintiffs in a $1.8 billion conspiracy for commission rates. And they found the NAR, Keller Williams, and I think Coldwell Banker, their parent company, Home Services of America, guilty of conspiracy to fix pricing with commissions. And so the way that I've always seen commissions working, at least here in the Columbus area, well, let me first, I guess, back up. What they were saying is that buyers are the ones that are actually paying the commission. And therefore, when a buyer agent says, hey, I'll help you buy a home, it doesn't cost you anything because the seller pays it, what this lawsuit basically is saying is that, well, since the buyer is either paying cash or most likely taking a mortgage out in order to purchase the home, that the commission is built into the sales price, and therefore the buyer is the one actually paying the commission. And so here in Columbus, the way that our listing contract works is that we have a listing agreement with the seller that the seller agrees to pay our brokerage a certain commission, in our case, 1%. And then in that same listing contract with the listing brokerage, they agree to pay the buyer agent a certain commission as well. And most brokerages just have a straight number where they'll say the seller agrees to pay a 6% commission to brokerage XYZ, and that the seller understands that brokerage XYZ is going to share part of that commission with the buyer agent. So this lawsuit, and it's my understanding as of this morning, the same attorneys that won the $1.8 billion in Missouri have now filed in 10 other states, have named a number of brokerages across the country, and will be bringing the same type of lawsuit across the country. So my question for you guys, Jay, your understanding of either this lawsuit or how buyer agents get paid.
So, I mean, with the lawsuit, I guess there's a couple of these lawsuits that are happening, so I may be confusing this one with a different one. But the way you were just describing it, you made it almost seem as if the listing contract is going to say, okay, the listing agent gets 1% or, whatever it is, and the buyer agent is getting a different percentage. I thought that was part of the whole issue, is that I think the term they use is they bundle the commissions together.
Right.
So the standard practice in our market, and I assume in most markets, if not all markets, is a listing agent walks in the door and says, hey, I'm going to be 6% 5%, whatever it is, to sell your house, and I'm going to share that commission with whoever brings us the buyer. There's 10,000 other realtors, and when they bring us the buyer, they're going to get, 3% of that or half of that or whatever, but it's all lumped into one fee. And so let's say somebody calls your realtor off of the sign, that they should then be a dual agent and getting the 5% or 6% to sell the house. And they're now representing both people. Part of the issue is no one knows the rules. No one follows the rules. Technically, I think most realtors practice, I guess I don't know, but I assume most realtors practice is, well, if somebody calls me off the sign, then, we'll reduce the amount of commission that's being paid because, I don't need to get 6% to do both sides of the deal. We know a lot of agents do that. But that's technically called a variable rate commission. And I never see that advertised, and it should be if it's being practiced. So again, I assume most agents don't even know what is going on, to be honest. I mean, and then like we walk in the door, and our commission is structured totally different, where we do unbundle it, and we say, okay, we're going to get this percentage for doing our part, and then you're free to pay the buyer agent whatever you want to pay them. Having said all that, I mean, I agree with the whole premise of the lawsuit. The buyer pays the commission. If you look at the average sales price and compare that to what the average sales price is when you do a for sale by owner, it's about 6% different. And so, I mean, where did that 6% just come from? Thin air? No, I mean, that literally is the cost of the realtors, getting backed out of the deal. And so that's where, to me, our model is the perfect middle ground, which is you're going to get that 6% exposure, but only pay a 1% commission to get it, which is a much more reasonable fee for, what's all involved with modern technology and everything going on.
I think the lawsuit centered around the conspiracy, and the conspiracy is that they called 1,000 agents across the country and asked them, how much does it cost? What's your commission? And that without almost no fail, all those 1,000 agents all said it's going to cost 6%. And so the thought is that, wow, you guys are all supposed to be independent contractors, but everybody's charging the same amount. There wasn't
definitely collusion.
It wasn't a deviation, and that's where the price fixing comes into play. And I know that the NAR, and here as a result, the Columbus Board of Realtors, they changed things up here 6-8 months ago, maybe a little longer now, that you as a buyer agent, Jaime, you should not be telling your buyer that your services are free of charge because somebody's paying for it. And so what are your thoughts on this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. I plead the 5th. Okay. I don't have to incriminate myself in any manner.
Oh boy.
In this video, but no, I agree. 10 years ago when houses were worth $150,000, a 3% commission on that, compared to $350,000 today and a 3% commission, it's an exponential increase. And I do think the buyer is paying that. The buyer is paying the $350 today, and the 3% of that going to you, depending on what the, brokerage is offering, the listing brokerage is offering. So I don't disagree. I do think that sellers should have the choice in commission, and it shouldn't be an industry standard. But seller decides, and I think the seller needs to be made aware that they decide.
Well, it's interesting because this lawsuit says that it's the buyer that's paying for it, paying that commission because it's baked into the sales price. And so
the fix would be to just put it in the contract and let it be negotiated like everything else.
But like,
the title insurance is baked into the price too.
Exactly.
The seller in our market pays. So that, it's like,
And that's the argument, is the home warranty is built into,
right.
The transfer tax that you pay to the county, that's built in.
Right. Because as we know, Dad, all our sellers care about is what is our net number.
Exactly.
And so we don't care the buyer agent's getting 10% or 1%. All we care about is walking away with our number.
And we have had sellers that have paid a 4% commission to the buyer agent, or a $2,000 or a $5,000 bonus,
right,
in order to get a little more action from buyer agents to, notice the home. The old "what's in it for me" attitude. And so
which should show you what's wrong right there.
Well,
the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's where for me, I don't know that the buyer's paying. I mean, in essence, then they're paying for the dirt, the block, the nails, the windows, it's all part of the sales process. And I don't, and I've not followed the trial that closely, other than to know that some of the things that are coming out was that they didn't really do a good job of illustrating that the listing contract is between the brokerage and the seller.
Right.
And that's where the seller, and I think, part of the argument is that, and there are brokerages here in Columbus, and we have a letter from a major brokerage that says we mandate our sellers have to pay a 3% commission to the buyer agents. And we've always questioned that. It's like, we don't think it's the brokerage's right to do that. But we've done a really good job as brokerages, as realtors, in the last 70 years of developing this 6% ideology that this is what you have to pay in order to sell a home. And then if you don't pay it, your home's not going to be sold. Well, for the past 4.5 years, we've proved that wrong. We've sold a ton of houses for a 1% commission on the sell side and a variable number on the buyer side, anywhere from 1%, as I mentioned, to 4%. Most of our sellers are in that 2% range, but we allow the seller to choose what they want to pay the buyer agent to bring a buyer.
We've even had some where we let the seller do $1 and then just negotiate it. It is what's, built into the price. This is what's negotiated.
Right. Yeah, because like you say, we really don't care, what's going out, as long as the seller is netting their number. I was at a listing appointment yesterday, and the seller said, this is what I want to walk away with. And so, I did the quick math, and it's like, okay, this is what we have to list the house for in order to get you your net number. And, that's after commissions are paid, transfer fees, title insurance, everything that goes along with selling a home. This is what we have to, market the house at in order to get your price.
And I think that's probably what the lawsuit is about, is looking after the consumer, looking out for the consumer to make sure that they have a fair shake as to what's going to happen. Not that this is mandated. This is just the way it is. This is just, it's 6%, deal with it. So I think the prosecution might really like that letter that we were sent.
Oh yeah.
Well, I interviewed with, I should have recorded them all, but I mean, I talked out to how many different brokers around town, and, was, talking about, okay, if I come to your company and I bring my 1% business model there, can I pay the buyer agents whatever the sellers want to offer them? And every broker said, no, you got to pay 3%. You got to pay 3%. That is what Dad is describing, and what we're talking about, like the theory of it's all built into the price. I mean, that's two willing people in the marketplace. That's a buyer and a seller. The issue becomes on the backside, there's price fixing and collusion amongst the brokers to keep commissions at a certain level. And the honest to God reason why is because every single new agent that comes into business is a buyer agent, and they're going to work on a team if they're smart. And those leads that come in are going to get sent to those buyer agents who are going to go get that sweet 3% commission. And they're going to split it with their team, with the secretary, with the office. The industry depends on that 3% co-op fee. So they are desperately trying to keep that up, while you have people like Dad and me and Jaime who come in and disrupt the model and say, hey, it's your money. You should be able to choose what these guys are worth. If the homes are selling in 2 hours, why am I going to pay the buyer agent 3% when it's the buyer who found the house on Zillow and called their friend and said, show me the house?
Right.
You know, that's where it becomes, I think, an issue. Not to besmirch any buyer agent who's working hard, or, you know, but it's the seller's choice. It shouldn't be the brokers to come together and lock arms and say, no, we're not going to do 2.75%. I mean, that's a little bonkers, especially if price is going to the moon.
The listing contract, you know, when I first started it, like I said, and there's plenty of companies still use that same listing contract, is that the seller agrees to pay 6%, just as an example, to the listing brokerage. And then it's up to the listing brokerage then to say, we're going to offer the buyer agent 3%, 2%, 1%, whatever the number is.
Correct.
But typically in Columbus, it's always been the buyer agent is going to get 3%. And so where I see the disruption actually happening is that there are going to be a lot of buyer agents that are going to get cut out of the business altogether, because they're going to come to us directly, and we don't have to represent you as a buyer. You know, we can simply represent the seller, because we don't do dual agency here at Sell for 1%. We don't represent both sides at the same time, but we'll represent the seller, and you can come unrepresented, and you're going to get 0% commission.
Yep.
And so the seller is going to save a lot of money. We're, as a listing agent, we're going to continue to make the money that we're making, because we're going to do what we do for 1%. And in that case, we have to do the paperwork basically for two sides. But we're going to
that anyways.
Yeah, we're going to represent the seller, and off we go. So I think where we're going to see the model really be disrupted with this is that it's going to hurt the buyer agents. Like you said, you're not going to be able to call your cousin Willie, because you know they're going to get 3%, because that's what the seller's offering. And then, you know, you give them a gift. And that's going to change, I think. It's not going to change overnight. It'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, whatever. But you'll start to see, and I think we'll start to see more sellers. And our listing contract pretty much says, if there's a buyer agent involved, this is what you're going to pay them. This is what you're willing to pay them, what you are offering the buyer agent to bring a buyer. And those buyer agents that have strong relationships and have been out there working for, you know, Jaime, you just closed one yesterday. How long you been working with that buyer? 2 years?
That buyer was, over a year.
Yeah. I mean, you've been out for a long time. And so you deserve to be compensated for your time. But I think that the internet has changed. The technology has changed. That's why we're able to sell houses for 1%. I make more now than I did 10 years ago.
That's because you're
with the 1%
of me.
With the 1% model. The business, the overall market's off 16, 17%. Our business is up about 20. It's amazing how sellers want to keep more money in their pocket. You know,
that's,
I know they love
us.
Yeah, they love me as their listing agent, but I ask them, are you willing to give me any more at the closing table? And everybody says no. I don't know why, but they do. So it'll be interesting. Good conversation, guys. I appreciate your time. If you have any more questions like this, give us a call here at Sell for 1%. Like and subscribe for additional information as we post it, and we'll keep you posted on this commission lawsuits as it spreads across the country. Thanks again, guys, and we'll talk soon.